la más cordial bienvenida a la 12ª versión de Visión, Nueva Agenda Urbana, que ha organizado la Universidad de la Costa. Le recordamos al público asistente seguirnos en nuestras redes sociales, en Facebook como Visión Q, en Twitter @visión_Q, en Instagram @visión Q. Nuestra jornada inicia con la conferencia Oil and Gas, Experiencia de Aberdeen, a cargo del Dr. John Scrimger. El Dr. John Scrimger actualmente se desempeña como director ejecutivo del Instituto de Energía Aberdeen, de la Universidad de Aberdeen. Posee más de 30 años en la industria petrolera en diferentes países alrededor del mundo y ha trabajado en grandes compañías de trayectoria internacional como lo son Oxy, Sun Oil, Perenco y Petro Canadá. Es miembro activo de Opportunity Northeast, Oil and Gas y de Oil and Gas Technology Center, ambos centros dedicados a la búsqueda de oportunidades de mejora de los campos petroleros ubicados en el Mar del Norte. Bienvenido.
Muchas gracias. Buenos días. Yo sé que todos tienen el transición, pero voy a tratar de hacer esto en español porque uno de los países donde vivía mi carrera petrolera era Colombia. Tenía la suerte de tener 3 años en Bogotá. Porque yo voy a hablar, no hablar hoy del petrolero, pero más como la ciudad de Aberdeen llegó a ser el capital de energía, de petróleo seguro, de energía de Europa. Hemos firmado un acuerdo de amistad con el alcalde de Aberdeen, con el alcalde de Barranquilla, para ayudar a la ciudad de Barranquilla a aprovechar la posible industria de petróleo que está llegando en este tiempo. Para decir que, bueno, esta es mi ciudad, Aberdeen. Estamos en el capital de petróleo de Europa. Tenemos una visión de ser el capital de energía. Y yo voy a hablar un poquito de la razón de esta visión, es nuestra visión del futuro. Barranquilla en esta semana ha llegado a ser una de las ciudades energéticas del mundo. Es un club de ciudades que enfocado en energía. Aberdeen fui el componente de la ciudad de Aberdeen. En la ceremonia fui al Offshore Technology Center en Houston, la conferencia de petróleo más grande del mundo. Yo soy de la Universidad de Aberdeen. Es bien viejito, fundado en 1495, alumna de todos los países, entre estos, todos los países de América Latina. Es la casa del Instituto de Energía, de que yo soy el director ejecutivo. Pero puede decir tal vez en planificación de ciudades, lo primero que la razón de la fundación de la universidad, que el obispo de esta época ha notado que fuimos muy mal educados, no había capacidad de manejar o administrar la región. Entonces la gente está sufriendo por falta de planificación y educación. Entonces, como era una época, él fue a Roma, al Vaticano, para visitar al Papa, tenía permisión de abrir nuestra universidad. Desde entonces tenemos una universidad allá. Y eso es un poquito, él estaba haciendo entonces un poquito que la gente de visión de la ciudad haría cuando la oportunidad de petróleo se presentó. Bueno, hablando, yo no sé cómo es Barranquilla hoy, el petróleo no es algo muy grande en el horizonte, sabe que están haciendo los primeros pozos. Pero de hablar un poquito de cómo era en Aberdeen, en la misma época, antes de la producción de petróleo, era en ciudad, la industria principal fue la pesca, papel. Estamos en el centro de una región de agricultura, sobre todo granadera y, ¿cómo se dice? Aberdeen es aquí. Hay otra ciudad aquí, Dundee, que tiene casi todo lo mismo que yo voy a hablar porque la industria escoge Aberdeen y no Dundee. Pero en la época, cuando la industria llegó, pensaba que Dundee, que es aquí, era más apta para ser el centro de operaciones de petróleo. Pero los dos son bien posicionados. Aquí es la mayoría de la actividad principal en el Mar del Norte. La actividad inicial fue en el sur, aquí, es 100% gas. Entonces, había un conocimiento de la industria, porque gas y petróleo, el producto es diferente, pero la manera de sacarlo es lo mismo. Pero la otra cosa, entonces, fuimos bien posicionados para ser el centro de operaciones. Tenemos en el puerto, en carreteras que necesitaban la industria. Tenemos una universidad internacional donde podemos formar gente para la industria, pero no fuimos formando alguien especial para esto. Y la cosa que yo pienso es parecido como aquí, la alcaldía era abierta a nueva industria porque estamos faltando actividad industrial. Entonces, esa fue la situación nacional. Nuestra experiencia en industria fue muy poco. No podía decir nada, pero muy cerca de nada. Había unas astilleros navales que han construido barcos para el servicio de petróleo. Pero esto es construir barcos, no es operación. Había barcos de sísmica, que parece que ustedes ya tienen aquí, tomando la sísmica, para hacer mapas de subsuperficie, subsurface, subsuelo, sí. Y como dice que la industria, nos hemos tenido un poquito de conocimiento de la industria a razón de lo que estoy pasando en el sur, cerca no tan lejos de Londres, ¿verdad? En un pueblo, ciudad que se llama Great Yarmouth. Entonces, esa fue la situación. Y cómo es de esta situación nos convertimos en la ciudad de petróleo más importante de Europa. ¿Cómo se convierte? No es por casualidad, yo voy a explicar qué es exactamente. No es esperar, espero que vienen. Esto funciona en una película de Hollywood, pero no en la vida real. No es tratar los petroleros como fuente de agua, fuente de efectivo y nada más. Es hacer otras cosas. La primera para planificación es tener visión. Para planificar la ciudad, la primera cosa que necesita es visión de dónde vamos. Si no sabes de dónde va, no puedes conocer la ruta. Y como el obispo en el siglo XV, la ciudad buscaba visión. El visión incluye el gobierno local y la industria local. No era el gobierno ni la administración solo, ni los industrialistas solo. Trabajaron juntos y comenzaron a trabajar juntos desde el principio pensando de qué vamos a hacer con la industria. La próxima cosa que es algo que ustedes están haciendo ahora, el alcalde de Barranquilla y la ciudad, la razón tal vez la razón que estoy aquí, que quieren entender más, un poquito más la industria, es comprender qué es y sus necesidades. Esta comprensión que hemos hecho en Aberdeen es la razón que la industria, sabiendo esto, decidió de venir donde nosotros. Después de todo esto, debe tener un plan, hacer un plan, un plan de desarrollo. Entonces, voy a ver cómo fue el plan. Hagan bienvenidos los petroleros. Esto no es tan sencillo que esto. Hay muchos que no gustan, o los petroleros, o que hacen carros, o que hacen eólicos, tienen que hacer la industria que quieren hacerles bienvenidos. Y otra cosa que consejo de muy fuerte es encontrar mucho petróleo. Esto es afuera de las manos, es como un chiste, pero es verdad. Si no hay mucho petróleo, esto no va a pasar. Y ustedes no saben cuánto que la cantidad de petróleo que tú tienes en costa afuera aquí. Es solamente haciendo venir los petroleros, haciendo pozos que van a averiguar de qué tamaño esta industria puede tener aquí. Pero después es seguro que si no hacen estos pozos, si no vienen los petroleros, si no hacen los pozos, no haría una industria. Okay. So, ¿cómo fue la planificación de la ciudad? La cosa que puedo decir que había personas, es como dices, como en el caso del obispo, había un señor de visión. Por azar, era el presidente de la Cámara de Comercio. Él no era industria, él era agricultura. Entonces, pero él ve que la ciudad necesitaba nueva industria y ha notado la posibilidad de que tenemos petróleo. Entonces, ese señor se llama Maki, era el rector, recientemente se murió tristemente el año pasado, pero era antes el rector de la universidad. Esta es la posición donde nosotros no es ejecutivo. La otra cosa es que trabajamos juntos, no es solamente la ciudad es un área pequeña, con la gente, no estamos limitados a los límites de la ciudad. Pues vamos a cuidando la gente de las administraciones alrededor. Siempre estamos más fuertes cuando trabajamos juntos. Y con el gobierno nacional. En estos días yo voy a hablar decir que estamos haciendo en estos días. Tenemos un gobierno escocés, que es como regional, y un gobierno en Gran Bretaña. Tiene que buscar maneras de hacer todos trabajar juntos, no uno contra la otra, que hacerlo en interés de todos. Y hemos montado una autoridad que se llama Northeast Scotland, Aberdeen es el nordeste de Escocia. Entonces, no diga Aberdeen sino el nordeste, entonces todo el nordeste era involucrado. En multiadministración. Y la otra cosa que han hecho, pidió a un señor profesor de económicas de la Universidad de Gascon que hacer un reporte de qué fue la posibilidad que puede traer la industria petrolera a la ciudad. Y él ha hecho un reporte de la potencial industrial. Yo reconocí lo que podría hacer si tomamos las buenas etapas para la ciudad y cambiarla. Entonces, a partir de este momento, nosotros decidimos de hacer todo lo máximo que la industria viene donde Aberdeen. Para comparar de dónde están ustedes, se descubrió el petróleo en 69. Fui 6 años para tomar la primera producción. Antes, yo estaba en Aberdeen, estaba estudiante en este año. La ciudad no estaba ocurriente, estaba en un campo un poquito de petróleo. Ya solamente esta gente de visión ha dado cuenta de la posibilidad que pueden llegar de la industria. Muy pocas empresas locales estaban activos en petróleo, pero había esta industria, sobre todo de pesca, que fue bastante similaridades de que podemos provocar. Mantenimiento de barcos, suministración trabajar en el mar, tal vez mejor dicho. Una de estas hoy día es una de las empresas de servicio más grandes de petróleo en el mundo, se llama Wood. En el principio casi todo fue lavado de los Estados Unidos, no fue nada del equipaje hecho en Gran Bretaña. hecho otra que en los Estados Unidos. Ya pronto queremos que la Cámara de Comercio, esa es una entidad nacional, offshore services, lo que es del gobierno nacional, que quiere que más porcentaje, más interés en la industria sea local, sea británico. Okay, so, ¿qué hemos hecho? Notando que no había posibilidad de servir a la industria en general con empresas locales y que mismo las grandes empresas que queríamos venir para comenzar, que la industria comencé, el de Shell, el de BP, creo que las empresas de servicio, Schlumberger, Halliburton, Baker, que son los grandes del mundo, sí, ellos tienen que venir para comenzar. Entonces hemos dado subvenciones que vienen, prestamos compras preferenciales para comenzar actividades petroleras y arrendamientos. La ciudad de la alcaldía ha comprado tierra designado para la industria petrolera en sitios cerca del puerto donde se necesita la industria. Voy a hablar un poquito más del puerto, que es una de las cosas más importantes para Costa Afuera, lógicamente. Iniciativas de formación, porque no había muy poca gente. BP es británico, entonces había un cadre pequeño trabajando en el mundo con petróleo, pero nada, puedo decir, tal vez 10% de lo que necesita como gente de profesional para petróleo. Gente profesional y gente técnica. Hemos formado planes para formar en el principio de geología en la universidad, pero técnicos de perforación, de barcos, etc., en entidades que no son universidades, con colegios técnicos que hacen lo necesario de formación. Como ustedes ahora, la ciudad ha hecho un programa de misiones comerciales, exposiciones de cómo vamos a ser bienvenidos usted si quiere venir a Aberdeen para hacer sus actividades petroleras. Fue en desarrollo de infraestructura, que el desarrollo fue después de hablar con la industria, que necesitaba la industria. Hemos tenido zonas industriales designadas para actividad de petróleo, centros de negocios. Muy importante, voy a dar un poquito de historia de este desarrollo del puerto. Conexiones de transporte, la verdad que hemos tenido suerte que al mismo tiempo hemos aumentado de manera importante el aeropuerto y tener conexiones internacionales que no había antes. Escuelas internacionales, porque esa es una industria muy internacional. Quiere que lo máximo posible sea local, pero la industria no funciona y grandes empresas quieren gente de su país, de su mismo. Entonces, en Aberdeen, una ciudad que es como 10% de Barranquilla, hemos tenido una escuela en francés, una escuela en neerlandés, Dutch, una escuela de los Estados Unidos. Este se comenzó como 3 o 4 años desde el principio. Alojamiento apta para esta gente, como quieren vivir los americanos, es diferente que nosotros, pero hemos construido casas del tipo que ellos querían para hacerlos bienvenidos. Ok, voy a decir unas palabras del puerto. Con permiso. Perdón. La puerta es algo, la manera administrativa del puerto es algo un poquito raro, pero nos ha servido bien en esta manera. Es el negocio más antiguo del Reino Unido, comenzó en 1836. Es en operación continua desde entonces. El más importante, los interesados no son accionarios, son la gente que ellos están ya para servir a la gente que lo usa, o la gente de la ciudad, o la ciudad. No es para dar, enriquecer accionarios. Entonces, no sería, si lo haría hoy, no sería diferente, porque como en esta época la gente pensaba diferente, está funcionando todo bien. Todos los excedentes, todos los profitos son invertidos en la puerta. Ellos están siempre tratando de mejorar, tienen hitos de mejora continua. Para mí, una de las cosas que hacen es servir las islas de Escocia, barcos de tránsito. Estos son barcos hoy, estos son barcos de servicio de petróleo, este es un delfín. ya cerca se puede ver delfín y focas. Este es el consejo de administración del puerto. Pero la cosa que fue muy buena, que ellas, de que reconozco de posibilidad, han hecho lo necesario, que había lo que necesitaba la industria petrolera. Como dice, los primeros barcos de sísmica eran en los años 60, y yo no pienso que alguien ha dado cuenta que esta es una industria llegando en nuestra casa. Pienso que eso está alguien que va a tomar agua y un poquito de comida, se va ya, pero las primeras discusiones entre Aberdeen, una empresa de la puerta y después empresa de petróleo, eran en 69. Cuando Shell llegó y hablaba con ellos, y ellos decían, para hacer exploración necesitamos silos cerca del quay, necesitamos acceso a territorio. Entonces, desde entonces comenzaron a aprender que necesitaba la industria. Y los primeros barcos de perforación llegó, pero utilizando la puerta como para alimentarle. Fuimos en competición con Dundee. Este es el puerto de Dundee, similar a un río. Es subida al río Quito. Este también es un río, esta parte aquí, pero muy cerca del mar. Este es Aberdeen. La verdad es que BP comenzó en Dundee. Estaba pidiendo Dundee de investir en la infraestructura del puerto, pero el concepto de la alcaldía de allá no estaba tan caliente de hacer esto. Entonces, la negociación tomaba más tiempo que debía, y mientras tanto comenzaron a hablar con Aberdeen como alternativo. La otra cosa que puedo decir que por suerte había un problema industrial, había problemas afuera de la industria industrial. Fui como construcción de carros, alguien quiere montar una fábrica de carros y los sindicatos pidieron tal vez viendo de atrás demasiado. Entonces, la relación entre la alcaldía y las compañías de petróleo no fueron buenas. Entonces, nosotros era una oportunidad para Aberdeen. Entonces, la alcaldía y el puerto se activó rápido para entender lo que estaban pidiendo las empresas de petróleo. Hicieron un business plan lo necesario. Y comenzamos a encorajar la gente local a trabajar, a ayudar, a ofrecer servicio a los petroleros. Y el Consejo de Administración del puerto modificó rápidamente lo necesario para aceptar los petroleros. Resulta, hoy día estamos el centro de energía y también está haciendo otras cosas. Dundee sufrió, era un país, en ciudad que sufrió en los años 80, 90. Ahora hay cosas buenas pasando allá, pero era una oportunidad que faltaba. Entonces aquí es como que aprendió, estos slides son diferentes mandados de la gente del puerto, que tan amables son, que aprendiendo que cada empresa petrolera es diferente y cada tiene sus propias necesidades, y para servirlos debe entender esto, de encontrar manera de acomodarlo. Una cosa particular tal vez necesita silos para el suministro de gran cantidades de cimiento, de varites, de fluido de perforación. El puerto ha arreglado esto, que cerca del que ha montado muchos de estos. Han convertido el puerto que se puede, antes había la operación cuitidal, no sé cómo es en Barranquilla, pero los petroleros eso no funciona. Si necesita algo en el taladro, necesita de hora, es muy caro. El taladro cuesta mucho por hora, entonces no puede esperar el mare. Entonces convertieron la operación de 24 horas. Ha hecho otros mejoramientos del puerto. Ok. ¿Qué fue los resultados? Yo no puedo decir que esto es como saltando hasta casi hoy. Había bajas y subas en la industria, sobre todo con el precio. Un problema de ser ciudad de nuestro tamaño, con mucha actividad petrolera, cuando el precio es bajo, la ciudad sufre un poquito. Hemos aprendido cómo sobrevivir en estos gastos. Pero hoy día tenemos como 40.000 empleados directamente en la industria. Y puedo decir, la industria, empleo directo e indirecto, es como 300 a 400.000 personas en Gran Bretaña. Pero gran parte de estos en Aberdeen y alrededor. La remuneración de la industria petrolera es bien superior a cualquier otra, tal vez en los bancos, pero afuera de estos puede ser mejor. Que causa un problema cuando el precio es bajo, pero cuando es alto está bien con la ciudad. Hoy día tenemos alrededor de 2.000 empresas petroleras en la ciudad. Hay grandes y hay muchos pequeños. Hay mucha gente que tiene de su familia que trabaja o de sus amigos, de 3, 6 personas. Empresas locales, hasta Woodgroup, que no sé cuántas personas tienen en el mundo, tiene actividad aquí en Colombia. Pero tiene actividad alrededor del mundo. Me imagino que tiene más de 100.000 personas trabajando para ellos. En el principio, ellos estaban haciendo mantenimiento de barcos de pescado. Entonces, fuimos suministrando la industria como 67% del requisito de energía del Reino Unido. Entonces, esto es afuera de que estaba haciendo Aberdeen. Los impuestos de esto fue muy importante por la economía del país. Nos ha hecho una de las ciudades más ricas de Gran Bretaña. Cuando el precio es alto, hasta recientemente fuimos al segundo. Había un bajo del precio del petróleo hace 5 años y no me parece que podría ser el segundo en términos. Ok. Pero los problemas que esto nos da, estamos muy dependientes de la industria. Y cuando el precio bajo sufre, el problema es que la gente son tan bien pagados que tienen dificultades de cambiar de industria porque las otras industrias pagan menos. Estamos manejando cuentos maduros con plataformas antiguas. Entonces estamos cambiando, necesita nueva tecnología para manejar esto. Las necesidades de la industria están cambiando. Necesitamos un nuevo plan por el futuro de nuestra ciudad. Estamos haciendo esto. La verdad es que está como recomenzando con el reporte. Yo estoy faltando de tiempo, entonces voy a hacerlo con esto. Este es el futuro de energía de Aberdeen. Producción de petróleo es todavía importante. Ya estamos produciendo de 1,5 millones de barriles por día, pero es en declive. Entonces sabemos que no podemos depender de esto. La cosa no es encontrar, ellos que pueden sacar el petróleo a precio más bajo van a ganar el mercado. Con la condición, con la madurez de los campos que tenemos, sería difícil competir. Entonces estamos tratando con esta Oil and Gas Technology Center de encontrar nuevas tecnologías para permitirnos detectar el precio y ser competitivos. Pero la cosa otra en que estamos trabajando es bajo carbón, es el futuro a largo plazo. Todo el mundo quiere esto. El problema es que estamos cambiando, pero el cambio es lento. Yo puedo decir, vamos a aumentar, mire cualquier reporte de energía. Hay muchos que yo puedo recomendar, de BP, de ExxonMobil, de Agencia de Energía de Japón, Agencia Internacional de Energía. Y todos dicen que vamos a aumentar el uso de petróleo de aquí para por lo menos 15, 20 años. Después puede haber un declive en el uso de petróleo. Pero es lento, pero nosotros sabemos que bajo carbón es el futuro. Y el sistema de bus en Aberdeen estamos cambiando de uso de hidrógeno. Ya tenemos como un tier de los buses corren en hidrógeno, pero los hacemos el hidrógeno con electricidad de la red que es hecho con gas. Pero ahora, en estos días, estamos montando el parque eólico enfrente, en el mar, enfrente de la ciudad. Cada uno de estos genera 9 megawatts cuando hay viento. Entonces, lo que vamos a hacer es hacer el hidrógeno con el poder eólico. Y vamos del servicio del bus en la ciudad será 100% limpia. Y estamos haciendo otras cosas, sobre todo en la universidad. Es mucho más el país, el gobierno y la comunidad europea. Hay fondos para investigar maneras de hacer la industria energética más limpia. Nosotros en la universidad somos frente de estos. La otra cosa que estamos haciendo es ahora más importante para nosotros que la producción, el futuro será la cadena de suministro para la industria petrolera. Estamos haciendo con este centro de tecnología, vamos a hacer que esperamos ser el centro de tecnología más importante seguramente de Europa para la industria petrolera. Sabemos que necesitamos diversificar, esta es parte del plan de la ciudad, y vamos a mirar las industrias que son pequeñas, qué de ellas podemos aumentar. Estamos mirando es food and drink, comida y bebida. Estamos en el centro del país del whisky. Estamos conocidos en esta área de Escocia para carne y para otras cosas, para el pescado todavía. Biofarma, entonces haciendo drogas de cosas naturales, turismo digital. Estamos examinando estos 4 para ver de dónde vamos después, no después, pero con energía. Estamos mirando también qué experiencia tiene de esta gran industria de petróleo que puedes transferir afuera. Sobre todo lo que es marítimo, la tecnología que sirve para la industria petrolera, podría servir para la industria de energía renovable o de minas en el subsuelo, en el fuego. No sé la palabra, the bottom of the sea, en el bajo del mar. Esta tecnología que podemos adaptar. Ok, pienso que este es mi tiempo, se acabó. Me gustaría hablar más, pero sí. Bueno, si alguien tiene una pregunta. ¿Cómo?
Gracias.
Sí.
Agradecemos al doctor por su intervención. Nuestra segunda conferencia se titula Barreras y Driver para la adopción de la eficiencia energética en el sector industrial, a cargo del doctor Patrick Tolander. El doctor Tolander es magíster y doctor en ingeniería de Linköping University de Suecia. Su trabajo doctoral lo desarrolló por la implementación de la política energética en Suecia, específicamente en la evaluación y reducción de las barreras que se manifestaron para su implementación. Tiene amplia experiencia en la implementación de la eficiencia energética en pequeñas y medianas empresas.
Good morning, everyone. So, first of all, I would like to thank the rector and also Cabello here for inviting me. It's an honor for me to be here at Universidad de la Costa. So, thank you for that. I've heard that there are some students here in the room as well. So I have two words for you before I begin my presentation. Okay. First is that my father, he was a plumber, okay? He was not a professor or a high CEO and that. And I just want to encourage you that the vision you have and what you really want to become, go with that vision, okay? Because it's, and don't let the past and what you come from it's important, but don't let that hinder your career, so to speak. And I'll say to you students here that are around. Second, with all sincerity, we are many experts here in the room and so on. We don't have the answers to everything that we were talking about, okay? And you are the young generation, you're the ones to solve what I'm speaking a little bit about, but you are to step and step up and have the solutions that I don't have. Okay? Ready? Okay. So let's begin. I will speak about the drivers and barriers to energy efficiency, and also a little bit on ways forward for this, which for me is energy management and energy policy. So first of all, why is energy efficiency so important? Well, this is we're here right now. We're moving towards the future with the scarcity of resources, okay? and increase global competition. So for Colombian industry, if no actions are taken, they will not be able to survive on a competitive global market. So energy efficiency remains a very important competitive edge for industry. Also, but if we succeed and into the tunnel, we can actually be one of the market leaders when it comes, because we're producing with less cost. And this is what I share right now. That's my own major motivation for why I like to do research about this so much. I love the industry. So how high potential do we have for energy efficiency? This is a modest indication from the European Commission. 25% energy efficiency potential for technical changes and so on. I don't know about the Colombian policy, but let's say that we introduce an energy audit program in the whole of Colombia for industry. The outcome, according to the scientific research from other countries, is that probably 40 to 50% of the measures proposed in the audits, cost-effective measures, will be implemented. Okay, so this is the potential. This is the actual deployment level, and there's a difference between potential and what we can deploy. Okay. Simple way. Four ways to reduce energy cost. Load management. Is load management saving in energy? No. But it brings down the maximum use of power, so we reduce the cost. Then we have technology, we have behavior, and we also have conversion from one energy carrier to another. Those are the four principal means of energy cost reductions. But there is a potential, but despite that, a lot of the potential, we said 40–50% only is deployed. There is a gap between what is the potential and what is the level of implementation. So I will be a bit theoretical today as well. The reason for this deployment is is explained by barriers. Have anyone in this room seen a barrier? No, no one has seen a barrier. So it's a theoretical model on how we explain the non-adoption of energy efficiency. In the European directive, they make a distinction, and this is very common for Western world countries, that we are making, because we're building a lot of the policy activity upon economics, new classical economics. So we have two types of barriers in general terms: market barriers and market failures. And this is the aim of the two European directives for improving energy efficiency. The one that came in 2006 and the one in 2012 has this aim to remove market barriers and market failures or imperfections. Imperfections and market failures is the same. So market barriers, that's basically anything that hinders adoption. Market failure refers to a violation of the theoretical assumptions of mainstream economic theory. So there's a difference between market barriers and market failures. And I assume there are many engineering students here in the room. Maybe some of you come from other disciplines as well. But if we just take a few of the assumptions from economic theory, it looks like this. A complete set of markets, so the rights are well defined on the market. We behave, both consumers and producers behave, we're maximizing our own gain. Market prices are known by all parties, and transaction cost is zero. And this is theory. And any violations of these ones, let's say that we have a transaction cost for energy efficiency improvements, then we could say we have a market failure. Are you following? But this is in theory, and this is how most of the policies are being created in Western world countries, Sweden not least. So then there are four types of market failures. We have incomplete markets, we have imperfect competition. And if we stop there and say that we have an energy audit being carried out, we have a saving potential of, say, 25%. So the cost-effective potential for energy efficiency improvements is 25%. Now, we cannot say that because we already have the measures proposed, right? So we cannot say that, oh, the market is not functioning, because that may lead to the fact that we have a 30% potential. Okay, so incomplete market is not a good explanation for the energy efficiency gap. Second, imperfect competition, same thing. And there is sort of like a problem with this, because we have extensively focused on market failures. We've created programs only to overcome information-related barriers. And this can look like general information campaigns and so on, where you provide information. You might have information in TV and news and media. There is a very interesting book, and I could encourage you to read it, even though you're a clean-cut engineer, and it's from Stern and Aronson from 1984. It's called Energy Use, the Human Dimension. And they review what psychology has to say about energy efficiency. And they say the general information campaigns provides more head knowledge, but it does not lead to any real changes. Okay? So we have some policies being out there that are not so sharp, so to say. But targeted information programs, where we provide specific information, for example, an energy audit where you propose to the company you can do these 4 or these 12 or these 22 measures, is much more effective. And also what is called voluntary agreement programs, where we both have an audit and also energy management. So energy management is how to deploy the measures proposed from the audit, and also to find other type of measures, for example, new routines and so on. I'll come back to that in a second. So if we sum up, information like this here now, one way. Communication, we have a chat, it's a two-way. So targeted information programs, I propose, should also embrace the human issue and also communication if we're to succeed in policy deployment. So are we ready now to go through what the scientific literature has to say about barriers to energy efficiency? We're ready? Theoretical barriers now, okay? So what different theories on how to explain the energy efficiency gap? So if we start here with the market failures, we have, as we said, imperfect information. So if you don't have information, or I don't, we don't make the investment or the measure. Then we have 3 types that are all referred to as asymmetric information. Split incentives. This means that if you're the CEO of a company and I'm the mid-level manager, and you tell me that you are to launch this great program for in-house energy management, but we allocate energy costs in our company based on square meter. So I will not listen so much to you about your program. Of course, I will say, very good, I will listen to you. But since I don't pay any attention cost-wise because the cost, energy cost, is only leveled out by square meter, I have no incentives to make any changes. You know what I can do? I can change floor area. That's my solution. The other common way to allocate energy cost, which is not so good, is per employee, per division. Then your program is very good. I think if I'm to save my energy or reduce my energy cost, I fire staff from my division. Not very good driver either. So we have to allocate energy cost, but if you don't, we will have a split incentive. You have an incentive to stay, and I don't. Then we have adverse selection, and this means that most likely, if you're selling something to me, you know more about it than I do. And if I'm not making this procurement and this investment so often, which is the most of the energy efficiency technologies, that is the case. Then it is very, the scientific papers say I'm very likely to make my investment based on color, or that the seller is nice, or other visible attributes, and not on energy performance. That's where the principal-agent relationship, which, among other things, if the company owner is maybe not trusting the CEO of the company, he or she may impose, let's say, 1 year payback, and then we have a high potential for energy efficiency, but we can only deploy measures that are under 1 year payback. Continuing then, that was the market failures. We then continue on the market barriers. We have these four, also addressed from economic theory. It's heterogeneity, and this means that some technologies are not functioning in all environments. So it's simple as that. We can propose measures, but in certain environments, that technology is not functioning. Then we have hidden cost. And hidden cost means that if we make improvements, there are other costs associated with improvement, not only the investment cost. And that can be to search for information, and etc., etc. And that is also inhibiting energy efficiency. Access to capital, not much to say about, right? Because if we don't have money, it's difficult to make investments. And then risk aversion. However, sometimes access to capital can also be self-imposed by companies because they don't want to lend money because they're afraid of taking risk. And then we have huge potential, but they don't want to go to the bank and lend any money. Continuing, and this is from the social science field, apart from boundary rationality, which is from Herbert Simmons, which received the Nobel Prize in economy. So he might not himself want to be considered a social scientist, but it's on the border. What he showed was that people are boundary rational. I tried to read this book. It's more than 100 pages of equations, and I have to be honest with you, I didn't understand so much, but he mathematically proved that we as individuals are boundary rational. This means we're not always taking the rational choices, and that is of course an explanation to the energy efficiency gap. Also, how information is presented. If it's vivid, alive, and so on, it's also very important. If there is information about available energy efficiency measures, but the information is not presented in a good way, maybe via email or something, it is not taken up. So it's much better if we have a presentation, or if we have a report specifically addressed to one company. Then information is tailor-made. Also, we may have information, but we don't trust the sender. And there are some interesting research where information is being sent out from two different actors, and information from one of the actors is taken up, the other one is discarded. Because the groups receiving the information, they trust one party, they don't trust the other. So from a policy perspective, it's important to have an actor that is trustworthy when you deploy a program. And also research tells us that you and I in this room, we're quite slow to changes. We want to go the way we always do. And that's what the psychologists are telling us. And also values. If we have a value in a company towards continuous improvement and environmental adaptation and so on, it's much more easy to get better levels and better levels of energy efficiency. And I can tell you a little story. When I was doing my PhD, I was interviewing industry leaders, and I never forget when I asked one environmental manager, and I asked him, hey, how are you working with energy efficiency? And he replied to me. Now remember, he's the environmental manager. And he said, hey guy, in this company, we're not any environmental weirdos. We're doing drag racing in our spare time. So in this company, they were not so good in doing energy efficiency, because his value was not towards environment. He was doing drag racing. Okay, last two theoretical barriers. Power. normally the energy manager is not on the top level board of management, so he or she might have problems with getting the measures through the process of the investment process of the company, and also culture. And I'm not a social scientist, so I can be a bit I can violate those a little bit. And if I am, as a simple engineer, says culture is the sum of all the values of the individuals in a company. That's not really true, but partly true. And if the culture is first, I don't care, let's do it the way we always do, it's difficult to have the changes being carried out. So that was the theoretical barriers. If we sum up what the literature is saying, we have some key barriers, like energy costs are not sufficiently important, lack of time, lack of budget funding, lack of access to capital, and here we have power, the energy manager lacks influence, and then poor information of energy efficiency decisions. But also, I have to say this, I've been doing this for 15 years. However, there are not so many general findings on barriers. They differ. If we make a barrier study, or we plan to make one here in Barreras, it will differ from the ones I've done in Sweden or Germany or etc. So it differs between country, industry, size of company, etc., etc. So we don't have so much general findings from that. Okay, so now I've covered the barrier part. So let's now move into which is much more fun. How is energy efficiency really getting to happen in companies? Okay, so we can focus on the barriers, but the drivers are more important. And I will just start from the bottom, from the top-down perspective a little bit. So this is what the welfare economists are looking at. This is from a study I did for Swedish industry. So here we are in 2005, and if we're not doing anything, we have a GDP growth of 2.3%. Then we have a linear increase of energy use, right? So the baseline is really going towards 2.3% change or increase in energy use per year. Simple as that. But then we have structural effects in the economy. I didn't understand Spanish, but I assume that John might have addressed some in the oil industry. We see some structural changes right now in that industry. It's where the economy is making things happen that we couldn't foresee at all. So this is really also making some savings in the economy in terms of energy. Then we have the autonomous effects, meaning we have to change sometimes our fridge at home, or industry has to change to the furnace. So then we have some more savings, but it's just happening per se, so to speak. The rest here, the three, I'm not going into detail because it's not the aim of my talk here, but then we have the effects of policy programs. And going back to my first comment and encouragement to you who are students here, I don't know exactly how these programs are to be designed and so on. I think I know, but looking on the outcome of those programs, we see that there is a long way to go for energy efficiency improvements. And what we saw in the previous picture, that is measured in terms of energy intensity. And that's energy, the total use of energy, in this case in industry, divided by the industry's GDP. Now, this is not rocket science, but we're now a little bit questioning the top-down perspective. Because really, in industry, the energy use is the sum of the production processes energy use, the different ones, and the number of products we're doing, plus the base load. It's an AX plus B equation. And you know what? If I go out and do audits to companies and I ask them, where do you think the energy is used? They say 80% is production. The majority of the companies are not having their major energy use in the production process. It's in the support process. However, in the whole of the industry, because we have some few very big and very energy-intensive companies, as a whole country like Colombia, of course the major energy use in the whole industry is mainly being used in the production, but for the majority of the number of companies, SMEs and non-energy intensive, it's the SO, which is and the SO is flat. It does not depend on how much you produce. And this gives us to the conclusion that energy efficiency in general, if you go the driver from the top-down perspective, it's depending on where we start our base year. It's also depending on, as we said, the economic activity, and also how the prices of energy, the energy price structure was in the past. If we have high prices of energy for a long period of time, we have done more changes than we have, like in the case of Sweden. We have very cheap prices for many, many years. Also, if we have rising electricity prices, let's say that we have a double price of oil, the oil price, more measures will be profitable. So they will happen autonomously. So that is also affecting the potential and also the definition, what is a profitable energy efficiency measure? Is it a year's payoff, 1 year? Well, that is also, of course, setting the level of energy efficiency potential, and also the effect of previous policy. I'll now show 3 cases of, as I said, the PX plus the AX plus B equation for energy end use in industry. This is an engineering company, primary metals. Not even 30% of the energy use is in the production process. And this, in Sweden, I would assume also here in Barranquilla, the majority of the companies are like this. They're not having small and medium-sized industrial companies. This is a semi-energy intensive company, a foundry. So, well, it is energy intensive, but not the extreme ones. Here, 50% is in the support process, ventilation, and pumping, and so on. Half is in half production, half support process. Here's a Swedish pulp mill. 16.2% is called others. That's where all support process are at. And I propose to you that if you boil this down, it would be less than 5%. That is what that cannot be allocated to the production process. So what's my point of this really? My point here is that as the PX, or to put it in very simple words, as the energy use for production versus support process, as that differs, the approaches need to differ, right? Simple as that. I don't want to make too much critique, but I can say that energy auditing might not be the optimal policy program for all types of companies. You might want to also dig into energy management and promote that from a policy perspective. So the barriers to energy efficiency, they increase and inhibit adoption, but as the PX differs, so should the approaches to energy efficiency. And there's also one crucial thing that we will shortly come back to. In the past, there's been a very low priority towards energy management. So, while barriers to energy efficiency can be seen, it started with York in 1978, and the definition of the energy efficiency gap came by Hurst and Brown from 1990. So it's a well-established field of research. But drivers for energy efficiency, it's not a well-established field. It has not been researched at all as extensively. So looking on the outcome of those, and we have done some of those driving force studies in Sweden, and these are some of the results. Cost reductions is a major driver. Of course, it's a driver. But what's notable is that in parity in our studies, many times comes a person that is committed, right? And that person, it might be as a student in the future, going out to industry and driving this change that no one else has maybe taken care of, or not dared to question previous views of energy efficiency and culture and so on. So in the Swedish pulp and paper industry, which is one of the most energy intensive industries in the world, the people with real ambition, according to the energy managers in that sector, rank people with real ambition as a high driver as cost reduction. So it's not only about cost, it's also about in-house actions. Notably, industry also says it's very important to have a vision. The name of this conference is Vision, and I love it, because you need a long-term strategy and view. Where I want to be in let's say 4 years and maybe 10 years. And also commitment from top management. And I can tell you, over the years, this is sad to say, but I have actually met a few of those people with real ambition. And you know what? They've given up, because they never got this commitment. And they said, oh, I propose this, and I propose that. After 1, 2, 3 years, they give up, and they don't care. And then I step in, coming in and talk to them, and they, oh, you can do this, and you can do that. You don't need an expert to come in as to do an energy auditor. You just need to talk to the people with real ambition. He knows everything, or she. But they've given up, because they didn't have the top management support. Also, the threat of rising prices is a major driver we've seen. And also improved working conditions. Because even though I love energy efficiency, the people in the company is, of course, the most important to take care of. And now, if I make the summary of this, it's that the driving forces that we have seen, some of them are general. We find them in every sector: SMEs, pulp and paper, steel, foundry. And it's about those cost reductions, people with real ambition, long-term energy strategy, threat of rising prices. So, different from the barrier studies, we see some general important drivers in the industry, independent of the sector. Going back to different approaches, if we have one example where the previous Swedish program for energy efficiency in the intensive industry, it was ranked very high by the plastic industry, but by the foundry industry, both those sectors, the plastic and the foundries, they're energy intensive. They were high ranked by only one of them. And this tells me that we might need to have other approaches, not just one, because policy approaches need to be tailor-made. So we need a diversified portfolio for success when it comes to close the energy efficiency gap. So that was my presentation about drivers. So now we're moving into the last third of my presentation, and then I'll speak about energy management. And you know, sometimes you can be a very good researcher, and then you can succeed. And I met some of those, and I admire them. Sometimes, and I think I'm one of them, you can be lucky having a country that implements energy management systems 10 years before any other country. This means I can do a lot of studies before anyone else can do it as a researcher. So I've been very lucky to be in Sweden and be able to work a lot on this issue because the Swedish government created an energy management system in 2004 within the policy program. And that later was more or less a copy-paste, not really, but very, very heavily inspired European energy management standard, which later became the ISO 50001 standard that's now all across the world. But an energy management standard is one thing, energy management is another. Because energy management, you need to know in industry, and also of course building energy management, you need to know the building energy system, of course. But you also need to know the production process. And somewhat also the transportation, if that is a high part. But then you need to know also, at least be aware of the different methods you can use to deploy energy efficiency. But you know what? One more important thing is there, and that's leadership. And also knowledge about various drivers, but also leadership on how to operationalize the program in-house in the company. So this is my major framing of energy management. So energy management is one of the most important means of reducing barriers to energy efficiency. And it has not been, as I said, so extensively researched. Only the past 10 years or so, the number of papers is increasing rapidly right now. So it's been more adapted across the world. And we have the standard, as I said, the ISO standard. But without top management support, the energy management work is likely to not succeed fully. And I would also like to address that energy management system is a tool. Okay? Energy management, that embraces the whole concept of management of energy in the company. Are you following that distinction? Many times I see sincere engineers, they say, oh, we're really successful in our company with energy management because we have an energy management system. But I can say we've done research, this was many, many years ago. We proved that an environmental management system did not lead to any energy efficiency savings. I had 10 companies, and even the manager said, no, it doesn't create any savings. So beware that energy management system is an awesome tool if you also embrace leadership to the concept. So there's a difference. Last, in this slide, energy management and core business. I don't know about Colombia, it's my first visit here, but I can say that the core competence notion, it came from a paper from 1990 or 1991 by Prahalad and Hamel. And what they said was that in order for a company to be successful, you should focus on your core competence to minimize transaction costs. Before that, the idea was, in order to minimize transaction costs, you should have all competence in-house. You know what that led to in terms of energy work in Swedish companies? A lot of the energy efficiency managers were outsourced. How can you outsource something that demands a really high engineering knowledge to be able to make any changes? It's the worst. And so, but the problem with embracing the core business concept is that energy efficiency only reduces cost. So if you look on the concept in a very strict way, energy efficiency in-house a company can never be a core business because it does not create revenue. It can only be a core business if you're also selling excess heat to a surrounding area or delivers electricity via back pressure turbines or something. So this has affected negatively, unfortunately, the energy management in Swedish industry. So now I will land with you about some success factors for energy management. If we all agree in this room now that energy management system is a good tool, but maybe we need to have a bigger picture to grasp the full concept. And I just published a paper with a colleague a few months ago where we summarized our finding of our 50 years of working with this in Sweden, and also some other countries, I think 7 or something. So I don't honestly remember, maybe I should, but I think it's 200 to 300 companies that we have now results from that I will summarize our major findings from. And the first one is, of course, having an energy audit is the first important step. But then you have to have full top management support, and you need to have the long-term vision, the strategy, as we just mentioned. And preferably, you have an energy plan, one which is multi-year and one which is 1 year. So one is more operational, one is a little bit more strategic. And then it's important to have one person, maybe not fully full-time, but one person that is owning, so to say, the energy issue in the company. He or she is the owner of the plan and the development and so on. And also, of course, the outcome. He or she is accountable, so to say. Then we just briefly touched upon split incentive barrier. We have the importance of correct allocation of energy costs. Very important. We also need to have clear key performance indicators. And let's just stop on this number 6 here for just 30 seconds and say that in the scientific literature, you read about KPIs for energy efficiency and benchmarking, and basically all papers are looking on the PX plus SO equation as one entity. Okay? They're not going into the company and looking more in detail. And I think that needs to be done in future research in order to be able to see, are we really doing well or are we not? Because we can do well in two processes, but be really bad in 5. But we don't see that if we only measure with the company as a system boundary and don't take the furnace, the melting furnaces and the holding furnaces, maybe the ventilation system and so on. We need to go deeper into and that is the important work of the energy manager in a company. Also, we're seeing that having a shop floor personnel, so let's say that we have a stop in the production, you're the energy manager, and I phone you saying, we have a production stop, so you can shut down the ventilation, you can shut down the compressed air for this part, and so on. So we can just dig down for 4 hours the energy use. Very, very easy way of saving a lot of energy. And then we have education for the employees, also visualization, and also energy competition between different divisions. So that's the summary of the, I mean, isn't it simple? I mean, it's not that difficult, right? If you have those, what we saw was successful companies in terms of energy efficiency, they had more or less all those in place, with the exception of maybe the last 3 parts here. So they had the top management support, they had the person committed, they had the strategy, they had the plan and all that, and they were really, really doing well in terms of energy management. I just want to share one slide on this. One important thing, a little bit neglected, there are some papers out there, but I propose also an important future arena of simple both energy management and also research is to try and include other gains with energy efficiency apart from saving energy or reducing energy costs. And that is increased productivity, improved working condition, reduced maintenance costs, etc. But normally, when you make investment assessments, you just take the energy cost included. Only when you have really, really high investments, let's say $100 million US, we try and also monetize the gains of increased productivity for the investment, and etc., etc. So I think the future arena of research and also for managers is to embrace the concept of non-energy benefits. Because if we're embracing this, if there are other gains with energy efficiency apart from energy cost reductions, this means the energy efficiency potential is much higher, right? And this is what this picture is saying. So here is the common potential, but if we embrace those non-energy benefits, that, so to say, in simple terms, other gains with energy efficiency apart from energy cost reductions, we have a much higher potential for energy efficiency. And that's positive, isn't it? Yeah. So, my last slide here, or second last slide, yeah, second last. Most common programs in worldwide for promoting energy efficiency from a policy perspective is audit programs. But another thing that I really would like to address is voluntary agreement programs. And these are the best type of policy for energy-intensive industry, because it does not only regard an audit where an expert is proposing measures, but it also regards energy management in-house the company. The world's most mature voluntary agreement is the Japanese Keidanren, and we also had one in Sweden for 10 years, and it showed very high success when it comes to energy efficiency. And I can tell you a short story about that program. The first 5 years saved about 1.45 terawatt hours per year after a 5-year period. And if we just remember a little bit what we talked about previously 30 minutes ago about barriers, let's say that you have information given to you for a 5-year period. I assume that 5 years is enough to cover the barrier of inertia, right? I said then we have done our changes. Okay? Are we agreeing on that? I mean, that must be reasonable. That means if we launch a second program for 5 years, what is the assumed outcome of that in terms of energy efficiency? 0, right? Okay, because we have all the information. But you know what the outcome was? 1.5 terawatt hours per year. And how can we explain that? Well, I can partly explain that to you, but it's we're still doing research trying to. But my hypothesis, and I think I'm right, is that the engineers were receiving top management support to work in-house with getting to learn their own energy system and production process. And that could take a few years. But after 5 years, they discovered, oh my goodness, we can do a lot more. So it's not only about technology changes, it's a lot about learning your own process in order to expel when it comes to energy efficiency. And my final slide here, I actually did not have this. One more thing. Also, digitalization or information and ICT or digitalization, I think it's a very important arena for both future research when it comes to management, but also policy activities. So if you allow me now, the last slide, I will be a bit theoretical, but if we summarize it, we have the energy efficiency gap defined by Hurst and Brown from 1990, and the European Commission said about 25% for European industry. But the equation energy is power multiplied by time. And the time part is how we use the equipment and how the staff is working really in the operations. So this means including management, we have a higher potential. Quite simple, right? But if we go here, only looking on technology diffusion, let's say new pumps or new LED lighting, will only deliver part of the energy efficiency gap. Because we need to also have a systems perspective, right? Many times I come to a company, or actually I would say not half of the time, but in many cases, I come to a company and we go through the different process and we come to compressed air, and I say, yeah, so tell me about how have you been working with compressed air systems? Oh, we've been working with that. We've been installing a heat exchanger for the compressor. You know, we have a very cold climate in Sweden, so heat exchanger getting heat is very good. And I'm thinking, my goodness, because if you put in a heat exchanger to the air compressor and you haven't done your homework in optimizing the pressure of the compressed air system, reducing the air leaks, maybe looking into the possibility of converting from pneumatic tools to electric tools, you might now have bought a compressor with a heat exchanger that is double the size of what you need. And that is an example of lack of system perspective. So we need to have the system perspective, otherwise we just end up here. And if we then also embrace the management, this is what we actually will be able to deploy in terms of implementation. Here we have the potential, but here it's how much we can, so to speak, gain from policy activity, the energy policy gap. My final question, and this is the tricky one, why don't we have the energy policy gap as high as the potential? Tricky question, isn't it? Well, the reason for that is that unless we have a strict plan economy where the people in companies are acting as robots, we can never, by policy, affect each individual on how they will act. And that's, in many countries, it's also part of the constitution, which we should be happy of, right? So that is the reason why we cannot, from the policy perspective, deploy the whole potential. Thanks for listening.
Agradecemos mucho la intervención del doctor y pues abrimos un espacio de 10 minutos para las preguntas que tengan al respecto. Tomaremos un break de 10 minutos y luego continuamos con el panel con los conferencistas que tenemos presentes.